Welcome to the Unofficial Controller Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast, episode number 258 by my reckoning. And as a Lincolnshire boy, I've got my socks out. Fingers, 12 out, and we're about 258. With me, George, and this week joined by RGT, Supernova, to my beleaguered Vauxhall Nova. How's it going?
Vauxhall Nova, hey?
Well,
What
I
if
did
any
have...
of the audience will know that?
Not many. I did
No.
have Viking to my biking, and then in a hot minute changed it to Supernova versus beleaguered Vauxhall Nova. I think we'll let the fans decide with their feet. Obviously, if there's anyone here next week, we imagine that probably just about worked. But if there's no one here to hear this episode next week, then it was a Supernova joke. RGT,
Yes.
are you having a good week?
A very busy week, but a very productive week. So, yes, I would say that is a good week. How about you, young George?
When you say productive, are we
Mhm.
talking the kind of productivity that involves you filling your lounge room floor with white sheets of paper, committing paint to your body, and then rolling across the paper in a semi-artistic fashion to produce the next piece of UCP artwork?
I swear you've got cameras in my house.
I wouldn't call them cameras.
Oh,
I would
so
call them
hmm.
web cameras, and I've got you live streamed across probably
that's where
half of the planet.
that's where all the new money's coming into the UCP then. Yeah.
Only paints. Oh God.
Steady.
This is literally the highest height this episode will reach. That rather pained joke that I inserted about you being on Only Paints. Before we lose any more listeners,
Yeah.
RGT, why don't you regale me with what you've been playing this gaming week?
Um.
And a message from the fan community.
Mm-hmm.
You can rest Sociable Soccer for this week.
We better hear what you've been playing because I have literally only been playing Sociable Soccer. And do you know what I know? I mean, when I repeat this, I feel what has gone wrong in my life. But I've put 55 hours in this game. I am, oh, well, over 55 hours. I'm now in Division 2, competing to go up to the top, the Premier, the Diamond League, where only the best players are. So I'm competing to get into. But on the Club Clash League rankings, I was ranked 17th this week, which I thought was quite good. So, 17th ranked team.
Somewhere, someone somewhere
They'll care and think, oh, that's high ranked.
is
Well done.
literally grinding right up against you on Sociable Soccer, hating you because
Mm.
you were stopping them progressing. Now, if they knew that you
hmm
were the face behind the team,
hmm
how do you think they'd react?
Not sure. I mean, it's quite a friendly community, I think, because of the way it's done online, but I don't think they'd come and stalk me, but I hope not. But then, snooze, you lose. See ya.
There's something about you, this latent sexual magnetism that I find.
I've never been described as having that, I'm afraid.
What did I just say it was?
Sexual magnetism.
Latent sexual magnetism. It's not
Oh,
fully
okay.
deployed, it just sort of hangs around like an aura around you.
My God. This is going to be a long show.
It is. Is there anything else
But
you've been playing? Anything
no, it's
retro or anything?
no. I have picked up a new cartridge for my Evercade, which I was hoping to get some played before this show was recorded, but I haven't.
Letters just come down from legal. Sociable soccer is prohibited from the discussion topics, and yeah, that is as well.
That's what I've got. The Sunsoft Collection One.
He had
So
it to hand, an aid to memory.
yeah, and I've
On
only got
that,
that. I've only just got that because I fancy playing that Blaster Master. So steady, control yourself.
if you and I were to do fancy dress anywhere, I think we should go as Master Blaster from Mad Max 3.
Oh, that's a classic. That's a classic. Can you imagine us dressing up?
Which who is who?
Oh, I don't even want to get into that.
I'm shorter than you, so I profess to be the diminutive fellow that gets to like carry a permanent back piggyback carry from you. So I'm like the guy going, Master Blaster rules by the town, Master Blaster. And
Oh
then
my God.
I don't know what you need to do.
Oh, this show has gone off piste already.
You wanted me back, I'm back. Now you get what you get. Carlos
Mm.
likes Jaded George. We put it out there last episode that this Jaded George was a new persona I was working on, and he's gone over gangbusters. I don't know if I can keep it up because I'm a little bit too. At times I can be a little bit too happy.
Well,
Uh,
it's also look. We started off talking about that I've bought the Sunsoft Collection one for the Evercade, and before you know it, me and you are at a fancy dress party as Master Blaster.
I'll be honest, I'm not here to talk about video games. I'm just looking to explore opportunities where we can go off the beaten path. And if you're 258
Well,
episodes in, you know that's true.
yeah, and you know he's on form today. So other than that,
No,
yes,
I'm not. I fell at the first hurdle. You picked me up wearing an only paints badly landed joke, and you carried me to Master Blaster, which to be honest is playing on nostalgia, if nothing else,
yeah.
for a probably rapidly approaching 40-year-old film. Uh, it'd be like my dad talking about films in the 90s and referring to Wonderful Life all the time. It's not right.
That's true. Yeah, but
So you've bought an Evercade cart, so
yes.
if we're talking white hot edgy gaming, you're at the very tip of that spear as it charges deep into the wound that is the gaming genre.
Hmm.
I'm going to regale you with what I've been playing, and you can see why now the white hot spear of gaming is not only plunged in but deep through. Because I've been playing some more Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and only no, tell a lie, it's been a I did a quick liner to a farming simulator last night. Yeah, I did. Um, to the audio listeners, you don't know, but I've seen to the video users RGT sip from a transparent cup.
Only transparent lid.
What's on that cup? Because if it's gaming related, I
It
think we
is.
need.
I've thought of this. I have covered this. It is plain because after our conversation the other day, I've made sure that it is gaming related tat free.
I yes, it makes it sound like I've got a problem, but I was also confessing my
I was
sins
hoping for that.
for gaming related socks, pants, t-shirts, hats, cups, cushions, blankets,
Although
bedding.
I have just seen a flaw in my plan. I'm
What is
sitting
the
here. I'm sitting in a Space Invaders t-shirt and a Sega Saturn hoodie, so I'm not quite completely tat free, but
At least half of the listeners have just gone off to Google Sega Saturn, thinking it's probably a moon of Jupiter.
yeah, that's showing my age. Yeah.
So let me get stuck into Assassin's Creed Valhalla to everyone that's still with us, and thank you
How
for
many hours are you in now? First of all, have you
second.
have you gone past your first play of this?
I, the thing is, I'm getting a bit confused because I thought I was past it, and then I was playing it Sunday night and saw a cutscene and thought, I've seen this before.
And you got the previous save? You can check the time on, or
I think I deleted it because I have started it again in between when it launched and now. And classic me, I wanted all of that gone so there was no confusion and I was experiencing it clean again for the first time.
okay.
So yes, that's on me. I don't know exactly, but I know our account. I'm past that now,
Hmm.
and I'll be honest. With some time to rest on the franchise as a whole, I'm enjoying Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you want to refer to all my earlier complaints, time memorial, about the Assassin's Creed franchise, everything I've said about it there stands here. But my annoyance with those little foibles has diminished to the point where I'm not that bothered. Is it very much rinse repeat, same as before? Yes. Is it the same but with a Vikings paint by numbers kit on top of it? Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, it is. But currently, I'm enjoying all things Viking, so therefore, I'm enjoying this.
Hmm.
Would I want to play another one straight off the back of it? No, I don't think so. Although I'm starting to look favourably in the direction of Odyssey and Origins a bit more because it's like I am kind of liking,
Mm.
but the same frustration applies. Go here, go 70% of the way across the map, talk to a matey, pick up blah blah, bring it back. The inventory system is completely flawed. I'm carrying around probably about 10 metric tons of garbage with me at any moment. Makes no difference to me whatsoever. I can change my clothes, sans wardrobe at any moment. I can just slip into something a little bit more comfortable. The relationship dynamics in the game are so basic, it's unbelievable, and actually end up being immersion breaking. Like I was seduced as I was the first time round I played it, and not too many spoilers by my brother's wife. Both times I've turned her down. This time I thought I would try and find some sort of romantic fulfillment outside of the family dynamic. Should be encouraged.
Mm.
Um,
Unusual for someone from Lincolnshire.
I don't play games to simulate real life. I play games to escape in a fantasy. Okay, let's just clear that up right now. So,
Although I'm
in
from Suffolk, so I can't speak, but
in
carry on.
this fantasy game where I'm dating outside the family circle, I ended up finding the only dateable person in the village that fit what I felt I'd take the direction I'd taken my version of Eivor in was this female that basically. So she works with her brother in a butcher's pretty much directly opposite my house. Now, there's nothing wrong with meat eating in general. I know it's not for everybody, but to be honest, to practice your current dating in front of her brother while he hacks off a boar's head is, I'll be honest, a little strong. It is not the most romantic environment, fighting
Mm.
through a load of ducks hanging from the ceiling while I'm trying to find out if my girlfriend wants to play. Well, let's go do an activity together. Okay, those activities are the really garbage drinking game or dice, which we know, George, you have no idea how you're playing it based on the fact that you've made really bad choices every time you've played dice and never won a game. So they're my only two social options with my good lady.
Oh,
I had got in the habit, and it's all part of the role play, of giving her a little kiss before I went off on an adventure. I thought this feels right. You can go a bit further, and I have tried that, but basically it's a cutscene where you see nothing. Not that I'm here, because let's face it, when Pornhub and a million other sites exist, I don't think you need to get your kicks out of Assassin's Creed Valhalla's dating minigame. I really don't. But if you are that cat, this is not the place for that.
I'll say
This
you
is
had more than that in GTA 4.
Yeah, it's the sexual shenanigans are equivalent to those in GTA 4. It's tastefully done. He cuts to outside and you see the passage of time and that's it. But if you want to give your girlfriend a quick peck on the cheek before you go away on a raiding mission, it then spawns you back in your bedroom with her because for some reason you can't kiss your girlfriend in public in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I mean, they probably got more taste than me because I probably actually planned to kiss her in the house she shares with her brother that has no beds in it and a load of dead animals everywhere. Um, but yeah, it takes you, so you leave your house to kiss your girlfriend, but you need to go back to your house. So it then re-renders you in your bedroom, giving her the kiss, and it's literally a peck on the cheek. And then you both walk out of there together. Um, I would say it's so underdeveloped that really Ubisoft, you should have left it out of the game. I have no idea whatsoever why it's there. And I tell you what, the men are absolute sorts because I've been propositioned by two women, but I've been propositioned by every single waking man in the game. I don't know what's going on in Valhalla. It's a bit of a raucous time. I went to a family wedding in the game not so long ago. Thought everything was cool. I was being polite to the guy. You know, the next thing he says to me is, "Do you want to plough?" Now, me being a farming simulator kind of guru, I'm like, well, I didn't know this had an agricultural mini game in it. I'm excited about this. The next sections that followed after that, meant I think we'd got our terminologies a bit back to front. Me and old matey boy. Yeah. Well,
No,
that's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The gameplay is as you'd expect. The romancing is as flawed as you'd want it to be. It's very much a simulation of my real life dating experience. Just to be honest with you, a load of misunderstandings and kisses near dead meat. I'll be honest with you.
like I say, Lincolnshire.
Oh, why don't you come round and try and seduce me while my brother just basically with his 4 frames of animation hacks at this same pig carcass for time memorial. I mean, in terms of butcher qualifications, that guy is lacking. I have to
Yeah.
admit. I've never seen him hack up any other animal, and I've never seen this animal leave his workbench. I've also never seen him leave his workbench. He's perpetually chopping at this said pig. What's left of it, let's face it, it's been sliced, and that son of a pig has been diced way more than is necessary. I mean, if that was going to be pulled pork, it would literally just evaporate in your mouth. It's been
It's
that
tenderized.
that meat has been so abused, it barely even knows if it exists anymore. Oh, I tell you, of all the things I've said, you've took abused my meat and you've ran with it. If you're just tuning, if you skip past the only paints joke and arrived here,
Sorry.
it, it's probably time to unsubscribe. Moving swiftly on to what can only be described as the news, and we scoured the very darkest regions of the internet to bring you the latest stories. First up, because when you've been doing a podcast this long, you rub shoulders with the big dogs. Push Square have broken a story. It's our and the show's friend Shuhei Yoshida. If you want to find out what Shuhei Yoshida thinks about the Unofficial Controller podcast, you need to go back in your podcast stream and find the episode WASD Live, where I forced myself upon Yoshida like a Viking man looking to play some farming simulator. It was not probably the proudest interaction with a grown man I've ever had, but let's face it, based on my hit count, it's probably not the worst. So anyway, the headline on Push Square reads Yoshida says, I played The Last of Us Online. It was great. Let's get into the meat of veg of what he's talking about. One of the biggest bummers of this entire generation was the cancellation of The Last of Us Online, or Factions, as it's perhaps better known. Naughty Dog announced it was working on a standalone version of its popular The Last of Us multiplayer prior to the release of Last of Us Part 2. It was later teased the project multiple times, describing it as incredibly ambitious and even showing off concept art, but the online outing was eventually cancelled in 2023 when the developer made the focus to its single-player output instead. Speaking as part of the Sacred Symbols Plus, it's a paywalled episode of our good friend Colin Moriarty's show. He had the XPS Boss Studio on and he revealed it was a great game. It was great and he'd played it. The idea of The Last of Us Online came from Naughty Dog and they really wanted to make it, he explained. But Bungie explained to them what it takes to make a live service game and Naughty Dog realised, oops, we can't do that. If we do that, we can't make Intergalactic, to give it its full title, The Heretic Prophet. You don't want to say that. You don't want to call that one in for its dinner, do you? And so there was a lack of foresight. Yoshida continued that, to his knowledge, no first-party studio has been forced to make live service games. He noted that sometimes teams see the direction the company's heading in and push their titles accordingly. From my experience, says Yoshida, when studios see the company has a big initiative, they realise riding on that gives them a better chance of getting a project approved and supported, he explained. It's not like, to insert the name here, Herman Hulst is telling teams they need to make live service games. It's likely mutual. Sony recently cancelled 2 live service projects from Bluepoint and Bend Studio, which has left fans feeling frustrated. Many feel both teams have now wasted potentially an entire generation on projects which will never see the light of day. Yoshida, who's been focusing his time and energy on indies over the past 4 years, which is how we got the opportunity to meet him at WSD Live, didn't have much to add on the state of those projects, but he simply concluded, ever the professional, I think this is me rubbing off on him, he replied, yes, it sucks. RGT, couple of bits in here I want to focus on. I
Yeah.
think the first one is, and we'll do it in the chronological order which we arrived at, is the first one that stuck in my throat was Bungie Now they have had a success with multiplier,
Multiply.
multiplayer offerings.
Mm.
In the past with Halo and all the subsidiary titles that came from that, and you could argue have had some fair to middling success or even great success with the Destiny franchise. I would say that although they profess to have knowledge and understanding of live service games, that Naughty Dog listening to them is a bit of a stretch. I'll be honest. Um, they already had The Last of Us Online running on PS3, and everyone was happy with it and just wanted a replication of that. But Bungie came along and said, "Oh, well, you don't actually know what it takes to make a live service game, and you've got no idea, so you better just scan this idea," which was about the only live service game which the PlayStation community was probably even looking forward to. I find that a little odd, so I'd like your thoughts on that in a moment. My other one of is these studios are probably a little savvier than a lot of us give them credit for. Like they sense some movement in the waters at Sony, think we could do with a slice of that cash pie. So let's pitch our latest idea around the idea of X. They do that. They get some money from Sony. They get some extra resource in headcount to make something like this. So, in a way, it probably didn't work out too badly for them. But from a player point of view, which I'm being the audience substitute for right now. Where's my goddamn online Last of Us game?
Mm. Um, it's strange because if he's played it, I would imagine it was fairly well into production. It was fairly well. We knew it was quite nearly there. We knew it was quite. They were quite in. The development had gone a long way. Um, I find it strange with, especially with Bungie coming in saying no. You know, this is not really for you. You aren't going to be doing this. But when I thought, well, it's going to be more of a survival third person online game, which isn't a Bungie thing. You know, you would have thought that if Bungie really know the live service, Naughty Dog know how to make that third person action game. Why didn't they team up and get this game out?
I've no idea because everything I've read about Bungie's critique of some of these titles has been, oh, that's not great. But then they're coming from a place I perceive now to be quite weak. Their
Yeah.
opinion has been almost eroded to zero. Now, that's not by me or my perception of them. That's by Sony themselves, who bought them and then realised what an absolute steaming dumpster fire it was, and then almost started to shutter them immediately after realising what they'd paid all the big bucks for was drivel. They
Mm,
then used that captive knowledge of a certain marketplace that they might not be experts in, nor am I, by the way. I'd always caveat that with that. And then send them off to Naughty Dog and all expenses paid trip to tell them their game's not very good. Well, we've played factions on the original Last of Us, and although it was a bit bare bones, it was still pretty good. And I
mm,
think all we ever wanted was an updated version of that. I didn't even really profess to want any extra bells and whistles on top of it. That with the modern graphics would have been good enough.
mm.
But Bungie saw something in there that they didn't think would be supportable in the long run, and I find that quite odd. Did it have to be a live service game, or could it not just been the multiplayer element of Last of Us like it was always meant to be?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably never know what the product was going to be. But I mean, if it was going to be um, like an online, a lot of factions, an online, almost you get a team together and you build an area and you can raid other camps and bits and pieces. I can see
Yeah.
longevity in that. I think it's good. And I mean, that's not something, I mean, yes, live service Bungie know about, but that style of gameplay in that world isn't really them. I mean, whether they thought that, there isn't a market for that sort of game, but I'd probably argue, I'd beg to differ that most of these FPS first person shooters live service games, they're 10 a penny. If you're going to do a live service game and you want to give it longevity, do something different. Well,
Yeah.
if you're doing an almost like Fallout build a community, I can see there would be longevity in that. So I found it a strange decision, and I found it stranger that Sony asked them to go and critique it anyway. It's almost
We
like
don't know
we've
the
bought them now.
timeline. Yeah, we don't know whether this was still in the early days, the honeymoon period of the Bungie Sony
Yeah.
relationship. It could have been then when they were probably literally writing checks for whatever they wanted.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I think this is one of the greatest shames and one of the bigger casualties of this whole live
Mm,
service
definitely.
initial push, and then the 180 spin and cancellation of 98% of the projects have got on the go, or at least of the ones that we knew about. I mean, there's still some that are still to be confirmed. There's still some that need to be still confirmed that they're literally dead. Until we get to that point, we just don't know. There's still the rumored Horizon live service game banded around. Quite what that would look like. I've heard talks of the same graphic engine. I've heard talks of a more chillby style. I've heard talks of it being completely different. Who knows what that could be, or even if it still is in existence. But I would say Herman Hulst is going to try and keep that one alive as long as possible because it comes from his portfolio.
Mm, yeah, it is a strange one. I mean, well, you're similar to me. We're not great live service game players,
No.
but we're big fans of Last of Us, and there is a big Last of Us fan base. And if I was going to play a live service online game, that really appealed to me. I was getting quite excited for that. Now,
Me too.
I mean, obviously, there's rumours of The Last of Us Part 3, whether this will be bolted onto that so it isn't completely wasted as, who knows? But yeah, we'll see. And that's the same shame when he's played it and said, yeah, he really liked it. You think, well, that must have been at a decent stage to have impressed him, and
Or
that's
at the
it is
bare
a shame.
minimum, had enough of a gameplay loop.
Yeah, and enough there to say, oh, I like this idea. This is good.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a shame, I think. But there we go. Never say never. Like I say, whether they bolt this onto Last of Us Part 3 or
I'll be honest. I did hear that Shuhei was still suffering from PTSD from a confrontation he had in London a couple of years ago.
mm, oh, is that when that strange guy with the baseball cap come up and just sort of forced a UCP card into his hand and shook
Mm.
his hand, then quickly left before getting tasered by security? Was that the?
Some say it was a card he pressed into his hand. Others say something something far different from that.
Mm, yeah, he's never been the same, has he?
No.
No. Yeah, I wonder. I wonder.
What's next, you big hunk of burning man flesh?
Wow, I'm getting some compliments today.
Aren't you
Um,
just?
this is a story which is over on Pure Xbox. Um, Xbox is exploring AI to make its older games playable on modern hardware. Um, Microsoft has today announced Muse AI, a new artificial intelligence program that it thinks could radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future. Muse is a work in progress over at the Xbox owner, and it sounds like it could have big implications for the future of gaming. What we're interested in most, though, is how this could help game preservation, a point Xbox makes in its new blog post about the AI toolset. Today, countless classic games tied to aging hardware are no longer playable by most people. Thanks to this breakthrough, we're exploring the potential for Muse to take older back catalogue games from our studios and optimize them for any device. We believe this could radically change how we preserve and experience classic games in the future and make them accessible to more players. To imagine that beloved games lost to time and hardware advancements could one day be played on any screen with Xbox is an exciting possibility for us. The announcement goes on to say that Muse could have much wider implications than just game preservation too. Microsoft adds that these AI tools could be used in-game development process itself, allowing studios to inject new experiences while they are building new projects or supporting existing games. Another opportunity we're exploring is how Muse can help game teams prototype new gameplay experiences during the creative process and introduce new content, taking games players already love and enabling our developers to inject new experiences for them to enjoy, or even enable you to participate in the creation process. So far, Xbox developer Ninja Theory has been collaborating with AI on this AI work, testing out its 2020 shooter Bleeding Edge to see what Muse can do with it. The announcement isn't totally clear on how and why Bleeding Edge is being looked at here, but the team does provide a more detailed look, including some short gameplay GIFs with the full blog post. This is pretty interesting announcement here from Xbox, and even if the use of AI in-game development still feels like uncharted territory at this stage, things sound like they're pretty early on in development right now. But the full post is worth a look if you'd like to see what else you can pass from Microsoft's Muse AI announcement. Wow, interesting.
Interesting article. And often we hear how AI is the death of all creativity. I actually believe, if used in the right ways, it can be the spark that creativity needs, or at least show you the
Definitely.
direction in which to travel, which you might not have come up with on your own. Which we use it here as a time save at times. We use it here because we lack artistic ability. And podcasting ability, but we haven't quite got to the point where it's doing a podcast for us yet. But we're close.
Yeah.
We're spending the support money on getting an AI George worked out, but we just can't get it to come up with the random interstitials. I don't know. I guess it just needs more learning time.
Yeah.
But all in all, AI normally labelled up as the devil in drag. But this is a story about AI working for us in a positive way. Now, there's lots of games out there on systems that you and I might not call them dead, but let's say a young whippersnapper has suddenly stumbled across No Second Prize for the Atari ST stroke Amiga, the actually really quite deep and engaging motorbike simulator from the early 90s, and wants to play it. Now, historically, it had to have found an emulator and messed around and be part of the PC Master Race in the first place and play this mouse-based motorbike racing game. But we're not too far away from a reality where he can just tell his Xbox to run this game, and it will. Now, that's impressive, and it means that some of those games that have got lost to time, like Bat or Bat 2 is two of my sort of 16-bit icons, may eventually become in some way playable. Now, I'm taking it right off piste and walking it right into the territory of dream sci-fi talk, but the reality is they're using this or trying to use this right now to get some of their older games or certainly games that they have access to in their studios releasable in what I presume is a low manpower environment and also a short time frame. What do you make of all that?
Um, I think it's very exciting on two forms, really. I think with, um, you know, people who are retro gamers or who are using modern systems to play old games, their main phrase is emulation.
Mm,
Or do you use FPGA simulation? It's all, how does it play? Does it look realistic? Does there lag? If you can get AI to completely perfect that, so these really older games are playing just as they would have done on the original hardware, it's going to be fantastic. I mean, if the AI was good enough and quick enough to do this, could they do a retro games pass where you sign up and you have a bunch of retro games added? I mean, that would be brilliant. You know, um,
wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? That
it,
would
it,
be
it'd be
good.
a great little one. But also preservation, like you say, there isn't enough done for video game preservation. I know in the States there is a preservation society who have almost like this huge library of physical media, and they download ROMs of digital only games to within reason of what they're allowed to do.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think the game companies themselves do enough to preserve their back catalogues. Some of these games will be gone. Um, there won't be no evidence of them. I mean, you look at the great work people do, like, I know it's the older systems, but you get over at Atari Age and places like that. There was a guy who found this really rare prototype game straight away, rather than selling it, dump the ROM straight on there. We've got it preserved. We've got the game, and now it's there for people to use to play. And if it needs finishing, it's done. So I think on a preservation point of view, it could be good, especially if they're saving these files rather than, using it to perfect an old game, putting it on the system, and then once it's done, gone. If they're preserving all these or passing them off to the preservation people, then yeah, I think it's a win-win. And like you say, I think with AI, I think AI used in the right way could be really good, because I think,
What
especially with
game? In your dream world, let's say Muse AI goes full Skynet tomorrow. It suddenly just becomes this user-controlled masterpiece of technology. You fire up the Xbox, you say, Muse, I want to play. What's that game you're asking it to play?
Um, I think for me, I think it would be awesome to have. I know you have backwards compatibility limited now, I know, but if you could have a section, especially like a digital library of the real big, especially back in the original Xbox days, where you had brilliant games, like Crimson Skies and all them one-off games that were exclusive to that original Xbox. You had perfect versions of them in this, almost like I say, like a retro games pass.
What
I
about
think.
outside the Xbox ecosystem, though? What would be, this is dream territory now, RGT. You can allow your imagination to run wild. You can allow your fantasies to become solidified. Is there a game that you just can't find anywhere, or a game you played that you would love to play
Well,
again?
I
That's
think I'll tell you one that springs to mind, and one which I don't own, and one that you don't own, which you'd like to own, is games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Now, if
mm,
you had these perfectly emulated, or even running, rather than an emulation, actually running the digital file, and they played brilliantly. I mean, you can be playing these big hit games which are so expensive and hard to find nowadays. I just think that would be a real credit to any retro gamer as well, because as we know, we're collectors. There's a lot of collectors in our Discord and listen to this show. It's getting very expensive. We started a lot of years ago. We found it a bit easier and we benefited from that. Nowadays, if you're starting, depending on where you're starting from, it's
yeah.
going to be hard. If you had a perfect system like this Muse AI, which converted these into an actual, lot of say, a retro games pass, you could just hop on and play. I mean, that would be, I know you're not
Well,
owning the physical media, but it would be a great way of playing all these classics.
to
You
your
would be
point, as a
surprised.
startup collector, the only place you can really start right now without blowing your brains out is Xbox 360, PS3 era. PS2 is already accelerating up at a rate of knots.
Mm.
PS1's like, yeah, you get some £1 titles, but the majority of them now are £10 plus.
But you say that, I mean, as soon as they shut the Xbox 360 store, you go in CX now and you've got games in there for £50, which were literally a year ago were like £3. They're gone,
50p.
yeah, they're gone mad, That was a, can't remember that space game now, but I remember Digital Monkey sent me a picture of it, and I paid, I think I got the collector's edition for about £3.50, £4 a couple of years ago. That's now £50 in CX because they shut the, and that was all because of the digital store. Where you think, well, that's a physical copy, so why is it affecting the price of this physical copy? I don't know, but like you say, it is a hard thing to get into because if you want the big hitters, some of them are going to cost a few pounds
Do
nowadays.
you know
So
what game I'd ask it to generate for me?
what's that
Midwinter.
on the Amiga and the Atari ST?
Either or, I'm happy with both.
Yeah, 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 that was a big game for the day.
Oh, mate, I tell you what.
Yeah.
It was reaching for stars that they don't even contemplate reaching for now. You
Mm,
know, it really put itself out there. It was a big
mm,
open 3D world. The story was quite compelling.
yeah.
The method of transport and movement around of it was all ski based because this was set in like a
There's like an Arctic sort of place, wasn't it?
it, it was like an ice age
Mm,
or post a nuclear explosion that had sent the world into this sort of freezing wasteland. I mean,
mm.
let's look at it this way. Is snow quite easy to generate on the Atari ST because it's white? Yes.
But still, a 3D open world like that. I mean, and like you say, this Muse AI could perfect the game. It could maybe get it
Potentially
running
bring
at,
something like that back. Yeah,
yeah,
I
get it
always had
running at 30 FPS, get it running a bit smoother, bring the textures up a bit. You could benefit and actually play the game almost in a remastered way without having to do the remaster work.
absolutely, and that in itself would be incredible. It's probably got a long way to go in terms of button mapping and all that sort of stuff, but the idea in principle, I'm very much behind, and it saves a nerd like you or me, or a super nerd, someone in his basement who knows how to code. So, like an evolved version of you and I, who can actually back it up with actual C plus programming skills,
Yeah.
sitting in his bedroom, ignoring members of the opposite sex or whatever he's into. He'll plow with anyone. This dude, in my mind. and he's in his basement, not able to explore the social aspects because he's got to get these games working on the latest emulator. But now
Mm.
he can go out to the bowling alley. He can loiter around the 7-Eleven. He can do whatever he wants to do because Muse AI is doing the heavy lifting for him now.
Yeah, and like you say, I think with the emulation argument, if this could really perfect it so it's running almost as original, without all that expensive FPGA gear that people have to buy, like the analogs and
Well,
you
without
know,
swapping the 3.5-inch floppy about 16 million times as well.
yeah. So it could be as close to original as you could get without having spending the millions on trying to get it running on modern hardware and modern TV. So yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Okay. Well, we don't have to go far for the next bit of news because Nintendo Life furnished us with this bad boy. Not great, but needs reporting nonetheless. Netflix lays off staff at Oxenfree developer. The developer of hit coming-of-age indie darlings Oxenfree and Oxenfree 2 Night School Studio has been hit by layoffs. Game developer has reported an undisclosed number of employees has been laid off at the Netflix-owned studio. This follows on from the streaming giant closing its internal AAA studio Team Blue, which was headed up by Halo creative lead Joseph Staten in October 2024. Former and current staff at Night School Studio have asked to stay anonymous, but have told game developer that they're shocked at the news that the layoffs reportedly took place in January. Netflix bought the studio back in 2021 when it initially announced plans to jump into the gaming sphere, and you can currently play over 80 games through the streaming service on Android and iOS. However, Netflix has never shared how the service is performing. The first Oxenfree dropped back in 2016 with a Switch port followed quickly in 2017, self-published at the time. Nintendo Life say they loved the paranormal focused adventure back in the day. It was followed by a less well-known After Party, a game where you attempt to outdrink Satan in hell. Amazing. I do believe we've talked about that on the show. Oxenfree 2 launched in 2023 and a TV adaptation of Oxenfree is reportedly in the works. Netflix has declined to comment on the layoffs, but reportedly they won't affect the developer's project. It's another blow to the video games industry, which has been bombarded by studio closures and layoffs over the past 2 years, with 1010 Games and Ubisoft just a few of the most recent studios affected. Our thoughts, as always, go out to all those impacted. So I want to kick off by saying we're reporting this news because I think it's part of a wider piece that I want to talk to RGT about and also obviously to the wider podcasting audience as well. Now, there's been a few pretenders to the crown. Google stepped up, Netflix stepped up, and it seems to me like they're both failing. Obviously, Google failed quite spectacularly. They had quite a good service up and running, but just couldn't get the purchase or penetration that they needed to make it work for them. Um, for all intents and purposes, Stadia was exactly how we're playing games really now. Me on the portal, you through Premium, a lot of Xbox users streaming games rather than downloading them. A lot of these people tend to see the future, but then fail to get their vision of the future realized. Now, Netflix, obviously, it saw itself as a streaming darling. It's certainly the runaway success and has become almost a Hoover-like name associated with streaming, having garnered such catchphrases as Netflix and chill, something which you invited me to, RGT, that I will never ever forget. A defining experience with you.
Hmm.
Not one I'm looking to replicate anytime soon, but at least I can say I'd sipped from the devil's cup. Now,
Oh
Netflix, you would
yeah.
imagine. That's what we're calling it now, is it? Netflix, as you can imagine, with the users that they've already got installed, subscribed users, I'm not counting your grandmother freeloading off the back of your Netflix account and shouting at you because she's trying to watch All Creatures Great and Small, followed by Howard's Way, but can't because you're watching American Primeval. Um, but they thought they'd dip the hand into the gaming. Now, I've tried a few of these Netflix games. It basically just the ones that I tried, it defaulted me to my phone's inbuilt gaming store, where you got to download the game for free. It's not as though it's coming through the Netflix app when you're using it on your phone. It's just taking you to the place where you download the already established version of it for your phone. Now that's great. It means you get free games for your phone through Netflix, which most people have got anyway. But Netflix has struggled for penetration here. They obviously haven't got the name that they've got associated with film and TV or streaming video in general. Why haven't the games hit for Netflix to the point where, again, and it's sad news that they're telling Night School Studio to slim the headcount down a little bit? What's going on here?
I find it really sad, really. I haven't played Oxenfree 2. Oxenfree, the first one I played, and I loved that game. It was brilliant. Have you played that? Have you played
I
Oxenfree?
can't say I have. This
You'd
was
like Oxenfree. It's such a unique story, unique artwork, and it's almost like paranormal sounds coming through the radios, and you're sort of investigating this mine and this island where you've gone over on a boat, and it is such a nice little story. And it's one of them proper indie gems, and you just think it's such a thing of this at the moment, buying up studios. You buy a studio that's either been successful or an indie studio like these guys, and then after a little while you're stripping staff, and you just think, well, why have you bought them? I mean, they're only a small studio, and you're now stripping the staff, and it seems such a shame because they're very creative. They're
Mhm.
it's such a unique game, and they got these ideas, and the game was really popular as well. But you know, is it going to conform with what Netflix wants? Well, obviously not. It just seems such a shame. I've never tried Netflix gaming myself. I don't really understand why they're stepping into the space. What they see they're going to add
I
that anyone else
guess
isn't.
I
It,
guess you kind of, if you're in that sphere, you have to keep trying to grow your audience. You have to keep trying to
well,
find new genres to dip into.
this is probably what I said to Seb when we were talking about the breaking news at the time of Xbox and stuff. And I said, I think their Netflix are probably trying to hit that casual gamer. They're trying to hit that person. That's heads
Well,
with
the
like
games,
Xbox is having Games Pass on your TV. The reason is if you like playing a game every now and then, but you don't have to buy a console. Oh, I can just stick this on a streaming service on my telly and I can play some games. That's
yeah,
probably the market where the biggest number of
and the
gamers is.
caliber of game that they have on there, it's like Farming Simulator Mobile, Football Manager Mobile. They've got some from their own franchises, like they had a 16-bit version of Stranger Things, etc. on there.
Mm-hmm.
And standalone, they're pretty good fun, but that's not what I'm going to Netflix for. And when I
No,
get there and remember that they do games, by the time I browse through a couple of them and gone, man, it's just a no disrespect, but it's just a crappy mobile version,
yeah.
which
And
for all
that's why
intents
it's
and
not aimed at us, is it?
it's not aimed at us. Farming Simulator Mobile is 10% the game that it is full fat on console. So,
But then
why am
that's
I
why
going
it's
to play
such a
that?
shame that they've bought a studio like the Oxenfree studio. They've
Well,
been such a creative game that's probably more for the hardcore or indie gamers going to get
and I
into,
think
and
that's
then
probably more as well, in agreement with you that the having the mobile games and whatnot on Netflix is no bad thing, and they'll work on your telly, and that's great. But you didn't need to buy Oxenfree to do that. You
no,
bought Oxenfree, you set up your own AAA studio, internal AAA studio, Team Blue. You didn't go out and headhunt anybody. You went and found the creative lead of Halo, Joseph Staten, and you'd think that shows quite a strong initial direction of travel. But it seems to me like they didn't have the patience or they weren't completely convinced by Joseph's next offering, and they certainly weren't convinced by the profit versus wages argument that Oxenfree and Night School Studios were putting up. Now, in a world where nothing survives the bottom of a balance sheet, it's once again sad to see artistry dumped in favour of money. Now, you and I both know that our beloved hobby can't survive as a charity. That's for sure. And
mm,
these companies can't support non-profit making revenue. The only thing I would say about some of these studios is you're only as good as your last game.
yeah,
You played Oxenfree, but you didn't play Oxenfree 2.
no, it's
Just put him a Netflix hat on for a while. So we bought you for the Oxenfree franchise. We're not even going to deny it. That's basically what we bought you for. That's not took off as well as we thought. What
the
else are you
problem is
putting
though.
out?
Sorry to interrupt, but the problem with that is. Oxenfree is a game you're only going to play if you're a gamer. It's something that's on your radar. You're into indies. You're going to play it. So if you see it on Netflix, what are you going to play it on? You're going to play it on your console. You're not going to play
Well,
it on
they had
Netflix.
to, I suppose, have a couple of Halo titles that maybe had broke the meniscus of the casual or broke into the meniscus of the mainstream.
Mm,
I've never played Oxenfree, but the name and the status isn't lost on me.
mm,
So if you're making noise about getting into gaming, telling people that you've bought Night School Studio and you're setting up your own Team Blue, it's certainly a good news story, and it shows, I suppose it shows intent. It would have shown historical intent to people like you and I that they were taking this seriously.
mm.
If they'd just lobbed up a load of mobile ports, me and you would have gone, yeah, it's kind of what we expected. Now, it is kind of what we expected, and it is what we got. So it's a shame to see people like Night School
Just get swallowed up in all that.
get
And yeah,
swallowed up. And don't forget, when things like this were happening, Microsoft were making acquisitions left, right, and Chelsea. Tencent were making acquisitions left, right, and Chelsea.
yeah,
It,
they're probably
it,
forced to make a move, aren't they? And
it became a little bit of a gold rush, didn't it? On oh,
mm,
we've got to get some skin in the game. That's we're done. I don't think Sony would have bought Bungie if that whole gold rush hadn't been taking place at the
not at
time.
all. Not at all.
So I don't blame Netflix
Because what was the other
essentially.
group, Embracer, weren't it? But they've really struggled since. They've been trying to ship studios off now because they'd bought so many studios. They're actually competing against themselves. So the games are actually
When
against
you own
themselves in
everything,
sales.
all you ever are is competing against yourself,
Yeah,
and I do see a lot of this heading in that direction. I mean, this
yeah.
is at the same time that Microsoft announced that in 2025 they'll be the biggest publisher on PS5. It's not a great stat if you're Sony.
No.
It's a bloody good news story for your Xbox, but again, I don't. The way they're in at the moment, that's just nothing but my dad's bigger than your dad comment, really, and
Mm,
I find it a bit ridiculous. But
mm.
yeah, we're going to be the biggest publisher on another console that's actually more successful than our own.
Yeah,
Yeah, well done, guys. Yeah,
yeah.
you probably don't want to shout that too loudly in the toilets, else you'll get laughed at. Um, but that's how they operate. Phil Spencer lives for headlines. Fair play to him. It's done him good to this point. You can't argue.
Mm,
Or maybe you could.
yeah.
But anyway, all this aside, I think it does show that the land grab that took place, 2021 onwards of
Yeah.
large studios and small studios being swept up into larger organizations. I think what it screams is if you don't know what you're doing, don't buy studios. If you do know what you're doing, stick to your creative vision. Keep your staff at Oxenfree. Keep your own team studio, your internal studio going. Keep people like Joseph Staten in your ecosystem. Try and recruit more people to your ecosystem. Give them a way to show their artistic talents through you in a way that maybe traditional game developers aren't able to do.
Mm,
Maybe Netflix allows you the freedom a little bit more, but all we see is this time and time again where people have a stab at it. They try and become the Games Pass, they try and become the PS Premium, they try and become Steam. It's not working.
uh,
And it's a shame because sadly, people end up without a job off the back of it.
yeah, it almost reminds me of when I know this is a strange one to compare, but when you play Monopoly and you're on the second loop round the board, and then everyone wants to buy up as quick as possible because you're worried the next person's going to buy it, and it was
Exactly
it
that.
was that tidal wave of there's people going right. I've landed there. I'm buying that. I'm buying that. I'm buying that, and then suddenly, after about 18 months, it started thinking, oh, we've got all these, we've spent billions. Now
Literally.
what do we do with them?
Yeah.
You know,
Because I'll tell you
it's
what happened at the same time as well. Everyone's price started getting jacked up. Like, there's no way that Bungie was worth what Sony paid. But in the world at the time, it felt like the right number.
almost
But
felt like a bargain at the time compared to other deals.
compared to other deals, it felt like a bargain, but it was still an astronomical amount
It
of money.
was, it
And
was.
but when your back's to the wall and it's like pull the trigger or die, Sony's like, right, boom, let's do it. Let's do 5 billion on this. Why not?
Almost like they bought them just to stop the rot a bit. You know, it was almost just try and block the purchases that were
And
going
and
on.
and to be fair, of all the bedfellows for Bungie, I
Mm.
would have put Microsoft as a better
Mm.
bedfellow because of
Yeah,
the history. They could
yeah,
have lent back into the Halo catalog. They could
yeah.
have got some groundswell of support with the Halo hardcore by saying, "Oh, we brought back the OG developer." Not that I think it's 343 have done anything wrong, but let's go back to the roots. Let's do a reboot. Let's get into the idea of it. Let's get the Bungie boys involved. Now I know staff are always transiently moving between different publishers, developers, but the noise around it would have been Bungie are back and
Mm.
they're part of the Xbox family again. Isn't that great news? And by the way, here's a teaser, CGI teaser trailer of the Halo 7000, and everyone would have gone, "Oh wow!" But instead, they let that developer go to Sony, and actually, Sony's got the egg on their face, and Microsoft are laughing because you picked up the guys that made Halo. Yeah, we dropped them years ago because they're done.
Mm. Yeah, it's a weird one, and especially the way Destiny was on the fall as well. You know, you just think, what have you bought them for?
I mean, initially, you could say, you know, Destiny 1, the launch of that, the reception that it got, probably painted the wall of Bungie in a way that made them look like absolute heroes. But that game got worn down over time. Obviously, we got the sequel, Destiny 2, and that's had subsequent updates and DLCs and season expansions and all that good stuff go on. But really now, I would love to see a concurrent player count for that because it must be at its lowest ebb right now.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Definitely, no one's talking about it now, are they?
You and me,
Well, apart from you and me, no one's talking
which
about
means
that, are
it's totally done.
they? Yeah.
With
The
that
curse of the UCP.
yeah, with that all said and done, though, all joking aside, thank you to everyone. The show keeps growing in stature and strength. The community continues to grow, so we welcome people from all around the world there, and obviously into our support program that we've got, which are very happy with the amount of people that are supporting us on a monthly basis. I always say you don't need to. I'll always say this: the show will be free because more than anything, it's a first aid for you. Yeah, that's it. You stumbled across us last week. You give it us a second turn round in the MP3 player. Sorry to disappoint, but maybe give us a third, three strikes and you're out kind of scenario. We're very grateful for you, and we hope you found something here or in the back catalogue. Either way, you're all being very kind to us. So tell all your friends and get them on the UCP train as well. It's not a private party; it's for everybody. With that being said, though, RGT, we have a plucky list of people that support us at any level, and
Hmm.
one of their perks. And we're not going to do the tiers this week. We'll save them for next week. One of the perks is being read out on every show.
Mm.
Now we're contractually obliged to reach for our devices and start to read these names out one after the other like true heroes. Now, who started first last time?
You did.
So I feel you should go first this time.
Okay. Well, first on the list is Cnox, our good friend from Sweden. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Cnox. I appreciate you. Carlos up next. This is only right and proper because he is the. I don't need an army. I don't need a club. I need one man. And after 258 episodes, the fact I've got one person that will even acknowledge me in public is heralded as a great success. So, Carlos, the one man George fan club, thank you.
Next, we have Firm Returns. Thank you very much indeed.
Up next, we have the beautiful Trestles, New York.
Then we have Bada Bing Star, the legend.
Everybody stand up, please. Italian flag, salute emoji, and everybody sit down now, sir. Means I get the incredible. Now, what I would suggest you do right now, Tingle Tuna, is you go get Mrs. Tuna and you sit her down. Now, at this moment, you pause. No, so you pause, you go get Mrs. Tuna. I don't care what she's doing. She's making bread, she's doing all the good things. Wonderful woman, I know. Sit her down. And now you can press play. I don't. You'll have to work this out because my planning has failed. But you're catching the drift, okay? So rewind to this point. Tingle Tuna has got to be the most amazing human man I have ever seen. Mrs. Tingle Tuna must be the luckiest bitch in the Midlands, as far as I'm concerned. Not only is he handsome, but he's incredibly intelligent as well. And not often do you combine those two, roll the dice, and get three times lucky. Because do you know what? He's funny as well. And I'll be honest with you, reading between the lines, I think he's a bit of a sexual dynamo as well, if I may be so bold. So,
Really?
are you are you channeling the inner Mrs. Tuna now? Because I feel like this if this is still playing, it's now feeling she's now looking at him a bit gone out, like, oh crikey, mate, you brought me in here for this. It was
What
going.
have you been telling him?
Yeah, what have you? How much have you
What
paid
have
them?
you said?
How much have you? I don't know the support level, Mrs. Tuna, but now you're here getting all serious. I think it's about as much as he spends on video games a month, which I believe is $0 and 0 pence. We're just reading his name out because we love him, much like you. Who's next?
The wonderful Digital Monkery, our challenge accepted owner, curator,
If I could
designer.
live anywhere and be anything, I'd want to live amongst the hair follicles on Digital Monkery's beard.
Wow,
Hmm. I get to be with him every day, which I think would make both he and I happy.
definitely.
But then I also get to see everything he sees.
Hmm. Yeah, he's a rather big collector, so you'd be seeing a lot of games.
I think I'd be very, very happy with that. Just
Hmm.
chilling in his garage,
Just in a yeah,
sat
just
amongst the hair follicles on his
in a
chin.
little beard hammock.
Yeah, yeah. I'll weave a few of them together to make myself a little sort of a bed chair, and then I can sit there and watch him play Pinocchio on Mega Drive.
That sounds like heaven.
You know, and you wondered where this was going, and basically,
Hey,
I just described.
get weaving a second chair, fella.
Well, you. Oh, hang on a minute. No, it's just gone from heaven to hell. Me and you locked forever, perpetually on Digital Monker's face, mere centimeters from each other. Which across his face, if we're scaling up, is literal miles. But I just don't want to be that close
Oh, oh,
on
okay.
on someone else's face.
Oh,
I mean, come on.
well, it's a bit mean that, but
It was my private area, and then all of a sudden you invite yourself
oh,
to the Hammock Club as well.
Jada George is back.
I mean, I would allow you, not that he would have these because he's a very finely coiffured man. I would allow you to kind of sort of descend down on one of his nose hairs.
Like Tarzan.
More. No, not like Tarzan.
Oh, here we go.
More like the residents of Pandy Plot Fire Station. I see you kind of sliding down a bit Fireman Sam like. Cue the listener correction. I think you'll find it's not Pandy Plot, George.
Yeah,
It's
I don't.
XY.
I'm pretty sure that in Pandy Plop.
Who asked you anyway? You're just hanging down on one of Digital Monkery's very rare occurring stray nose hairs.
Shall we get on with this list?
Now I like what this has become.
Hmm. Yeah, you're
What
up next.
the gaming Gram?
Yes,
Okay, what would you like to do to him?
I cannot say on air. Um, Next up we have Bald Border. Thank you very much.
What an absolute cop out.
I wonder what you were going to say then. Oof. I thought there
Well,
was a bleep was going to be needed.
I well, you might need it for this because I'm going brown. Boba.
Boba. Then we got Marathon Gaming, our very own Scotty. Thank you, Scott.
I would love to be a speck of dust on his Game Gear collection.
Here we go again. Another one of your little warbling fantasies. You're next, by the way.
Oh, okay. Um, then I get the mighty, strong, sensual. sexual. Sealmaster Elliot.
Mm. Then I get the biggest guns in Nottingham. That is Ginge, your red-headed stepson.
You're right. I'm also trying to accept an app request for my daughter who's out at dinner and needs this Weatherspoon app now. So the show's just going to have to wait 2 seconds while I find out how to do that. I don't know how to do that,
Do you,
so
do you want me to carry on with the list while you're working out this app?
I'm going to send the parent message that every child fears to see. Send again. Yes. No, I shall carry on. Where did we get to? Just remind me, and I shall leap into it with full
I
force.
I just done Ginge, not
Which
literally,
which
just read his name out.
mean, yeah. Now I want to come to rest on Gingy's bicep.
Okay,
That's it.
that's a mountainous place.
It is again. If I was the,
I mean, I reckon he could crush full beer cans in them bad boys. Do you want me to read the next one while you're preoccupied?
yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we have the wonderful Harvey Retro.
Harvey, your videos. I'm on with your videos. I'm on with it. I
Yeah,
am on with it. Just bear
brilliant.
with me, because actually, what's going to work in your benefit is you're probably going to end up with a hell of a lot more VHS than you thought. That's all I'm saying. No matter.
Yeah, we had an off-air chat about this, so get ready for a Stingray parcel heading your way, Harvey.
Well, bear with me though, because I've still got some finer refining to do. Uh,
I'd call it filtering.
Hang on a minute, mate, because I just don't want to blurt out loud my online password to my...
Do you want me to carry on? I'll carry on again if you like.
Carry on, do one more.
Yep. And then next up, we have the lovely Emma Sharp. And thanks again for all your support, Emma. It is very much appreciated.
I have a question, actually.
Yep.
Um, what do you think the question is?
It's going to be one of two questions. So I think the first question is probably going to be, is she still on the apps? Or
No, it wasn't going to be that.
the
Okay, so
second question is, it's probably about, do we know where Greg is? Which is the next one on the list for you to read.
I know where Greg is, and I shall get to that in a moment. But my question for Emma Sharp is,
Hmm.
we need more pictures of you in the UCPT shirt.
Bit
I
greedy.
want a picture of you ironing on a mountain. I want a picture of you windsurfing in it. I want a picture of you scaling Gainsborough Hall and abseiling down it in the UCP t-shirt. I want to see a picture of you opening Blackpool Pleasure Beach in the UCP t-shirt. I want to see a picture of you looking at marzipan confused in Tesco's in the UCP t-shirt. Don't know where
No
that came
pressure
from.
then.
Something like that, Emma. I would love to see because we follow you on the Instagram. Uh, I would like to see the adventures of Emma Sharp in the UCP t-shirt. We could make an annual out of
Give
that.
about a t-shirt out of it.
How that I do believe the kids call meta RGT,
Yeah,
and I think that's way beyond what we're capable of.
definitely.
Now, someone who is very capable, someone who's very, very capable is our friend Greg. Now, I got a postcard from him the other day, RGT. You're never going to believe this, right? Guess where it was from?
Berlin?
You'd think so, but no.
No. But don't tell me it was it nowhere near there or
Nowhere near Berlin. No.
oh,
It was on the remote Samoan island of Fiji.
was it really?
Hmm.
Is he having a nice time?
I think he's conversing with headhunters. Now, I think he got an application on LinkedIn and went over there thinking that it was for another game studio. Actually transpired it was real Fijian headhunters that were going to
Oh.
boil his brain and then eat it at some sort of celebration. Probably the sort of celebration where they celebrate harvest or, you know, the arrival of the pig herd. Something like that.
So like I say, is he enjoying himself or
Well, at the minute, they're probably fattening him up. So he's probably thinking, wow, these people, they're being really
Mm.
kind. They're bringing me food. I feel like
Nine
a bit
meals
like
a day, lovely.
yeah, 9 meals a day. Feel like a foie gras, right? I
A
can't get enough.
fuck. Got a hose pipe in his mouth.
Yeah. And he's like, wow, this is great. And he's like, that's
Yeah.
all they bring me. But it's all part of a quite larger end game, I would imagine.
Mm. Well, hope you're right, Greg. Well, enjoy it while you can.
Series
Um,
8 of the UCP, filmed live from a Fijian island as we try and bust out Greg
Greg
AK ain't
from
nowhere near
Headhunters
Berlin's
Gang.
some headhunters. Yeah.
Anyway, where were we? Oh, yeah, we're on the list. Yes, Mumsy. Thank you very much.
I can't believe you just did her like that. I thought I was going to do her. Fine. Okay. So I'll take this. And I love the way this has worked out because you got mine and I get yours right back in revenge.
No, I didn't. You said yours.
Look, I don't ask you to come along
I
and
had to cover
regale
for you while you just wanted to do some social stuff while I was just holding the show up for you. But
the
so
ferocity as a parent now. I know there are other parents out there. Surely a parent must listen, please. But when your kid says, "I'm desperate, I needed this app to function at something," and you're a million miles away and I don't know what I'm doing, I almost feel compelled to drop everything and accept that immediately. So I'm sorry. Hopefully the parents out there understand. So I get the RGT fan club, numerous members. They all contribute together and submit this monthly submission, which is very grateful and very well organised as well for a
Mm,
Z list.
yeah,
What comes
yeah.
after Z?
I could go back round to A.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably more colon, semicolon.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's a list, isn't it? So at least I'm on A list.
You're right.
Next up, we have Pete Brocklehurst. Thank you very much, Pete.
Which means I get to lick the wrong side of the spoon and tell you that Billy Marmite also contributes on a monthly basis.
And then I get my good friend Simon Pryke. Thank you very much, Simon.
And the penultimate one here,
Has to say contractually.
and I'll take the last one as well. So I'll do this one and the last one. Sangy! That was me shuddering to a climax. That's the sort of, I think most of my vocabulary comes from the Reader's Wives section of 90s Razzle. Um, I can tell a great story, but it normally heads to the gutter because they're the only words I know. Which means last chance to thank the last subscriber, up to date subs list, fellas. What a great guy.
Oh my God, you're on one today.
Considering some of the names on there, it's not hard to imagine that
Probably
could be
quite
the list
normal.
of.
Yeah, someone's username.
In
Up to date
fact,
sub list,
please,
fellas. Thanks very much.
if you're listening now, go set yourself up on Buzzsprout, go to the podcast provider, scroll to the bottom of the audio show. There's a link there that says support the show. No guts. By the time we do this episode next Friday, I want to see a real user with that name. Okay? Don't let me down. Literally one book or whatever is the minimum pain threshold on Buzzsprout. You get in there. Get in there. We've had a joke. We've had some fun. And it wasn't at your expense. Hopefully, we laughed together. We're very grateful for every single one of you that rocks up
Without a
week
doubt.
in, week out, supports the show. We are looking to use those funds to launch a new project for the UCP this
Mm-hmm.
year. If we can get our ducks in a row,
Mm.
we're struggling with the basics these days. But what we're
Yeah.
aiming for is to grow the show
Yeah.
and not be a shower, be a grower. No, be a growing show.
Mm.
Mm. What are you hoping to play?
Oh, maybe a little bit more sociable soccer.
Bring me OG Tom's Overwatch contract, rip it clean in half.
Yeah, this is starting to sound a bit like the Harvestella issues, but
A bit.
yeah. But
I've
yeah,
only
I
been
basically
on
want to.
twice in about 6 months, and all I've ever heard is sociable soccer.
Oh, it's just I fell at the right time where I haven't got a lot of time, so the games I need to play need to be quick and fast, and it is quick and fast. So the only other thing I really want I haven't played the last few weeks is my Evercade So I need to get on and play some games on there. So
Thought we were ripping the contract up. He's mentioned Evercade. No,
I
I don't.
would,
I
I,
want
I,
him done.
I bet you've got an Evercade full collection a lot. Just admit it. You'll be
Secret
here.
games unlocked.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a little hidden cupboard there somewhere in Farmerton with a Evercade in full collection. Sit there in your Evercade t-shirt, Evercade hat, back to front. But yeah, that I mean, I've been wanting to get back on The Witcher, but I need to sit down. I've got an afternoon, 3 4 hours, so I can have a good run at it. I can't sit there for half an hour on The Witcher. You probably only just about get on your horse and then you'll be off, and that'll be it. So I need more time to a big gaming session on
What's
that.
it
But
take for a man like you to get that time? What do you have to do? What sacrifice would you have to make to be allowed an undisturbed Witcher 3 weekend? Where you probably go get some reverse just for men, grey your hair up. Um,
reverse just for men.
yeah, they've only got one colour, aren't they? Black, and it fights grey. So I'm thinking if we got the reverse version,
I've got enough grain here. I shouldn't worry. That's
you're not Geraldo,
oh
are you?
no, I'm not quite that bad, but I mean, I could maybe just get a little wig.
Dude, why does it look like I've like got lines in my beard like a 90s boy band member?
You haven't, yeah?
Yeah, cut them in last night. I also cut the middle out my eyebrow. I tend to get that little gap pierced as well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very 90s. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think that'll be this week. What about you? Oh, hang on, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I'm contractually not allowed to say that now because I've put you in a legal corner,
Yeah.
and no one puts RGT in the corner but me. But there's going to be some AC Valhalla off the back of the early medieval. Don't get on to me in the community corrections about when the medieval period started, for God's sake. All right,
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
it's going to happen though, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Getting community corrections and telling when the medieval period started.
But from all the Dark Age era activity of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and with OG Tom bringing me on a daily basis to update me about his actions in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, having not played the original, I thought, well, I've got the original. Maybe now's the
Hmm.
time. Maybe now's the time to play through the first one, buy the second one, feel so overwhelmed by the enormity of the challenge in front of me and never play it. But it's
Hmm.
there for a rainy day if I need it, right? So I have also still yet to slap True Crime Streets of New York in the console. I was going to do it, basically looking at it through a sort of historical lens, if nothing
Hmm.
else, to see how it does bear up and how it does compare
Yeah,
to
I'm
the
going to be
first one,
interested on that. Yeah.
and whether it got the shot it deserved, considering it was much improved.
Yeah.
Poor old True Crime screams of overpromise and under-delivering, and then the second one actually turning up and delivering and on the promises, and then everyone just being a bit done with it.
Yeah.
Shame. But I'll report back on what I find.
Hmm.
I don't think I'm really that much giddy about anything else, and I don't know if it's endemic of the wider gaming situation where I'm actually getting more giddy about my backlog than I am about new games coming out. It's
Hmm.
certainly not a great situation to find yourself in, but obviously it's the year of GTA 6, so you have to be really brave to launch in that year because it's a bit of a
Yeah.
write-off. But Death Stranding 2, I'm definitely hyped for that. And there's a myriad of other things that I'm sure will get announced and I'll get
Hmm.
giddy for, or be reminded by you or the listeners that you were hyped for this. No, I still am. I just forgot. Um, but at the minute, I'm feeling like I'm feeling a, I'm enjoying gaming as much as I always have, but I'm feeling a little bit uninspired by the current portfolio of games available to us outside of our backlogs.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that. My preference has definitely shifted these last 12 months as to what I purchase, what system I purchase on. It's been a very strange sort of 12 months, especially after how good 2023 was. So it's been different.
It sure has. And the seeds of change are in the air, I think, for gaming in
Hmm.
general. I think the litmus test is going to be GTA 6.
Yeah,
That's going to be pushing a lot of boundaries. I think price is going to be one of the boundaries it's pushing. Obviously, all the
$100
tech.
apparently.
I had this conversation with someone earlier today. Now, I think £100 for almost once in a decade like experience at GTS come, and if it comes with all the refinement that we expect, if they survive the exit at a high level of a couple of the inspirational, one of the Hauser brothers, and then matey boy, I forget his name. Brrr.
Dan.
No, we've done him. It's the guy who writes it, and he's also on the talk show on the radio itself. He was very
Oh
involved
yeah,
in the
yeah.
script. I forget his name now. Community Corrections, I do deserve that one. If it survived that and they still pull it off and it's a gangbanger the way it is, £100 is totally cool. Would I also be happy with a base version where it's only the single player component for 70? Yes, I would. Would I then buy the online section if it was as hyped as they say it was? Yes, I would. Would I pay another £30 for that? Yes. Okay, so there are people like you and I that probably don't want
Mm,
any of that online stuff and want to play GTA. I
mm.
think that is something they could look into. If it's £100, whatever, and you get the full fat, I'm down for it. But what I don't want this to be, and I think a clear delineation needs to be made, like people like you and I who have a mouthpiece, for want of a better word, is to let the gaming community, developing and publishing community know that we'll tolerate it for GTA 6 because look at the work ethic, look at the attention to detail, look at the story, look at everything it's achieving. And
Look at the
now,
audience that they can charge a
and look
hundred
at the
bucks because they
audience.
can charge $100 because
Yeah.
it will sell in
Well, they've
millions.
literally over time elevated their product to be to that level.
Yeah, it is the greatest. It's the most highest grossing piece of entertainment in history. GTA 5.
Right.
So that's why they can charge $100 for GTA 6.
But if EA rock up and expect me to pay £100 for the vanilla version of EAFC 26,000, they're on a hide into hell.
Yes, yes,
If
that is
Ubisoft
not
want
going to
me
happen.
to spew up £100 because this has become the new upper threshold of what they think a game is worth, have a look and think if you think your game is worth that.
Yeah.
Because we'll vote with our feet. I mean, Rockstar's a once in a generation experience. For Ubisoft and EA, it's a yearly experience, and
Mm,
it's not changed much from the last time. So it's a big
no.
ask. In fact, it starts to make their offering look even less uh, generous, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awful.
Without a doubt.
Right. Well, with that all said and done, I think we should rest it here.
Hmm.
And I'll say that's all we have time for this week, listeners. Thank you for your time. We look forward to the pleasure of speaking to you again next week. Until then, happy gaming. And remember, there's nothing wrong with being given the unofficial controller. It's what you do with it that counts. See you, RGT.
Laters.